So I am talking about structuring applications for growth. One problem there's a lot of problems we talk about in Go. We talk about like generics and dependency management, but there's no real consensus on like how you actually structure your apps. And it's everywhere across the board. I've worked on a handful of teams on a lot of projects, and I've seen a couple patterns. So one is grouping by function. So you might see like a controller package and a model package. Then you get these weird names where you have like controller.userController, and it's just kind of ugly. And these names, they're important. They kind of document the system, and it's kind of a code smell when it doesn't quite fit right, at least I found. And also you get these issues with circular dependencies. So your controller might depend on your model and vice versa. So you have, it tends to break, and you break it out to more packages. Another pattern which is similar is that you group by module. So you might have some customer section in the module, but you end up with like a customers.customer name, which is also weird, and you still have these circular dependencies. So after a lot of different projects I've worked on, this is kind of there's a model that I've kind of found that works for me. And this is mainly for like small to medium-sized projects. Once you get really big, you might need to break off your application, but for medium-sized, it seems to work well. So what I do personally, it's kind of 4 tenets, if you want to make it sound fancy. But the first thing is that in my root package, I put kind of my domain types, kind of the language of my application. And it's very pure and simple. And it's interfaces and data types. Next, I group the sub-packages by dependency. So if I have Postgres, or if I'm bringing in authentication from GitHub, I'll have different packages for that to separate them out. Next is I have a mock sub-package, which can then help with testing and isolate my tests. And finally, the commands, like my actual binary that I build, that package ties all these together. So that's been my pattern. It seems to work. We'll walk through it real quick. So the root package, you have these data types. You can call them POGOs if you're from Java, the plain old Go objects. So it might be like a customer product user if you have an e-commerce site. And then you have interfaces. So whatever kind of implementation you have, you want to hide and cover it. So you have a customer store. You can do some CRUD against that. And this root package depends on nothing else. It's just kind of its own little perfect world of your application domain language. Then sub-packages. This is where you have, if you have Postgres, I find that even if you're using a Postgres library, I like to wrap that in my own kind of specific sub-package. And it kind of serves as a way to kind of bridge across from that dependency to my application's domain language. So here I'm actually implementing customer store, and it has all the little SQL bits in there. And you can go fetch a customer. If I wanted to swap this out for a key value store or Mongo or whatever crazy thing comes up, you can do that. And it's just a new package, a new implementation. It isolates the dependencies, which I find really useful, especially if if you want to try to test everything individually. As you get more dependencies that depend on other dependencies, you can really build up these kind of gnarly tests. And also, it's not just for your third-party packages. I've done this with HTTP, which sounds kind of crazy, but it isolates all of your HTTP to one section, and it makes it really clean, I found. So that third tenet is use a shared mock package. So this is just a mock implementation. This is kind of the style I like to write them in. But then you can just kind of reuse them across all your dependencies. So if one dependency depends on another dependency, they can go through the interface of your domain language. And then finally, the commands kind of tie all that together. So here I'm just pulling in from those packages. In this case, I have that customer store I'm actually instantiating from Postgres, and then an HTTP server, which is using that interface of customer store, and I'm plugging in the actual implementation. So at this point, all of it ties together and runs. But I can still test it from a package level. So 4 things: separate out your domain language and your root package. Isolate your dependencies and sub-packages. Provide mocks so they can all share for testing. And then those commands are kind of the final thing that bring everything together. That's all. Thank you.